Hi, this is Mark Bowser, and here with another excerpt from the book I had an honor of writing with Danny Lane called Some Gave It All. Danny Lane is a Vietnam vet. He has 2 Purple Hearts that he was awarded among other medals during that war. After the war, he was a decorated police officer and detective, and also one of the best martial artists of all time. He's been inducted in multiple Hall of Fames, more than you can count on probably 2 hands. He's one of Chuck Norris's top black belts. Well, today we're going to go through our 3rd excerpt from the prologue and just explain a little bit more of what happens to our war veterans, to our heroes off the battlefield, and what impacts them as well as their families. And if you remember from prologue number 2, we found Danny Lane staggering near railroad tracks, and then he staggered into a Kroger after being saved from an Amtrak train by being pushed off the tracks by a drunkard. And they had just taken him to the hospital, and Dr. Shane Bowen had just began to try to investigate what was going on with Danny Lane. This was happening in 2006, so not too many years ago, and many, many years from his experience in Vietnam in 1968 and 1969. But what was it that happened in 68 and 69 that impacted him so much even in 2006? So, continuing on, the doctor had asked if they had any information on this guy, because at this point they didn't know who this gentleman was that they had just brought into the emergency room. No, not really, said the officer. He was seen on the railroad tracks acting like he didn't care if he lived or died. He was pushed out of the way of the Amtrak just before it hit him. There are no missing persons reported matching his description. So far, no one has called in with any additional information. Wow. That drunkard must have been his guardian angel, said Dr. Bowen. He then turned to his medical assistants who were waiting near the bed. Let's get him to X-ray to get his head looked at, and then let's get him upstairs. The door buzzed, and someone hurriedly entered the room. Dr. Bowen instinctively turned to see who had entered. To his surprise, it wasn't a nurse. A young man in his mid-20s entered the room with a look of despair. The strong, fit young man located his father and ran to his side. May I help you? Asked Dr. Bowen. That's my dad. I've been looking for him all night. He disappeared and I couldn't find him. I finally called the police department and they told me that an unconscious man had been picked up at the Kroger and brought here. I'm Chris Lane. Yes, he came in that way and is still in serious condition. What is his name? Danny. Danny Lane, said Chris. Danny Lane, the police officer and karate guy? Asked a shocked Dr. Bowen. The one who knows Chuck Norris and brought him to town? Yeah, that's him, said Chris. I thought he looked familiar. I remember seeing him on the news, but he's lost a lot of weight. This is Danny Lane? Yeah, that's him. Is he going to be all right? He's been really sick for the past 5 months. He's been having flashbacks from the war and talking out of his head, said Chris. What war was he in? Dr. Bowen asked. Vietnam. He was a Marine and saw a lot of combat. Wow. He must have gone through hell. That had to be about 40 years ago. What years was he in Vietnam? Asked Dr. Bowen. 1968 and 1969. You see, friends, our war veterans are more than heroes just because of what they went through on the battlefield. They are heroes because of what they go through every day in many cases. With the post-traumatic stress disorder, did you realize that an average of 20 to 22 veterans take their own life every day? So what was going on in 2006 with Danny Lane in his body and in his mind that was impacted from his time in Southeast Asia? Well, pick up the book. It's called Some Gave It All. It's available in a number of places. You can pick it up at Barnes & Noble or BarnesandNoble.com. You can pick it up at Amazon.com. You can pick it up at a bookstore near you. If you want an autographed copy from myself, then go to my website, which is markbowser.com/SomeGaveItAllBook, and the link is in the video description. Some Gave It All. It was an honor to be able to write it with this war hero, Danny Lane. God bless you.